Tennessee Titans mandatory minicamp is here, and Cam Ward must cook. I'll tell you what I'm watching for on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, mandatory minicamp week is here. The Tennessee Titans are going to have open practice the next 3 days, and I'm getting you ready for it on today's episode. First, we're going to talk about what I'm watching for out there, including Cam Ward needing to cook. Then, I'm going to tell you what roster battles I am paying attention to. And finally, I'll tell you why Jeffery Simmons better be out on that field. Now, before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. And if you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. Again, it's mandatory minicamp week, and I'm going to be breaking down every single practice, telling you what you need to know, what you missed. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Again, make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day, and we're on the hunt for 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, so help the boy out. But with that being said, what am I looking for at Tennessee Titans mandatory mini camp this week? Well, number one, Cam Ward needs to cook. Look, we talked last week at the open OTA practice that the Titans had about how Cam Ward had a little bit of a rough start. It was a tough test. The Titans were doing third down work. It was going to be his most difficult challenge at practice yet, starting out with all these summer OTAs. Well, it was a rough start. He bounced back. It wasn't his best day. How can he rebound from that in these mandatory minicamps? And look, we could talk about how important these summer practices are and how vital this stuff is going to be when the ball gets placed on the field, when we get to training camp, preseason, the regular season, all that. We could talk about how important it is. But at the end of the day, no matter what it is, no matter what practice it is, I want to see Cam Ward bounce back. And especially, again, you could talk about how important these OTAs are, but mandatory minicamp is by far the highest intensity level that you're going to see of any of these summer practices. The entire team is mandated to be there. You have starters all over the field. You have first team reps. You have second team rep. You have third team rep, 7-on-7, full team 11-on-11. Are the pads on? No. But this is as real a football as we are going to see, especially the 6-week break is coming, folks. And then training camp is going to come around at the end of July. So this is the last first impression that Cam Ward can make on the fan base, that Cam Ward can make on his teammates. And I want to see Cam Ward go out there and, again, the operational aspect. Let's get the ball from under center. Let's call the plays. Let's get in the huddle. Let's run a tight ship. Let's get guys in playing. Let's not have, false start penalties. Let's not have timing penalties when they're running full 11-on-11 type stuff. Let's run a tight ship here. Let's be polished. Let's know the plays, know the playbook, know where you're supposed to go. Like, that's the stuff that I think Cam Ward can be judged on right now. Will we get a full picture based on the reports and what we know and what we see and what we hear? Probably not based on what the coaches know and what's behind the scenes, but we're still going to have a general idea of how the operation of the day went, how clunky things were, how smooth things were. And I want Cam Ward to run a tight, smooth ship. Now, also, I want to see these connections that Cam Ward has had early in the process continue to develop. Calvin Ridley is going to be so huge to what the Tennessee Titans do this year and what Cam Ward's able to do. He is the only high-level talent at wide receiver that we can bank on right now. I would love Io Manor. I would love Restrepo. I would love DK. I would love for the ghost of Traylon Burks to come back and be an excellent high-level receiver. But what we know right now for certain is that Calvin Ridley is the only high-level wide receiver, top 30, top 25 wide receiver that the Tennessee Titans have on the roster, which means, like last year, he is going to get a ton of targets, a ton of opportunities. He's going to have success. So where last year we were like, oh, that connection with, if you remember last year during the summer, during training camp, during preseason, oh, that connection between Calvin Ridley and Will Levis, not that great right now. They're not connecting enough. We're going to need to see that improve. That's got to develop. It's early. It's early until it wasn't early. And then that connection between Will Levis and Calvin Ridley wasn't good enough during the season, and there were missed opportunities. Can't have that this year. I want to see that connection with Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley be on point right away. Okay? And it sounds like it has been so far. Let's keep that going. And then the rookie connections. Cam Ward is going to have a special connection to his rookie mates. Io Manor, Restrepo, DK, Helm at tight end. Who among those rookies is going to step up and really be like, oh, I'm your go-to guy. I'm your go-to guy when you need it. Makes sense if it would be Restrepo. That was the college connection. That's still there. DK is a guy who we've talked more about Io Manor and Restrepo and Helm by far. I admit I have. But DK is a guy who could make an impact. Who is going to step up amongst those rookies and propel their connection and chemistry with Cam Ward to the next level to where it could be replicated on the field? Because you may say OTAs and minicamp and all this stuff doesn't matter, but training camp certainly matters, right? Training camp matters, right? So who is going to take their connection to the next step? I sound like a reality love TV host right now. I'm Nick Lachey on the one on Netflix or whatever, Love is Blind. That's who's going to take their connection to the next level. But, love isn't blind, all right? Cam Ward can see these guys, and who's he going to see the most? That's what I want to see. The Calvin Ridley connection with Cam Ward, who's going to make that next step connection out of the rookie pass catchers? That's what I want to see. And ultimately with Cam Ward, to round things out, be the best quarterback on the team. A lot of people said, hey, I don't really care if the Titans do a true competition with Will Levis, because if Cam Ward is the quarterback that we need Cam Ward to be, he'll be better than Will Levis. And while I don't fully agree with that as a justification for splitting reps evenly, which they didn't do anyways. It was, as I said, they're not really going to do that, and they didn't do that. We heard that Cam Ward got the, quote, lion's share of the reps last week in the OTA, so I would expect that to continue and only progress, quite honestly. But Cam Ward should look like the best quarterback out there. So ultimately, we could talk about operation, knowing the playbook, how polished, his swagger on the field, the connection with his teammates. We can talk about all that, but he just needs to be the best quarterback out there. That's what I'm looking for. So cook, Cam Ward. Cook for us. And again, Titans social team, can we get another one of those sidearm throws? Boy, I'm itching for another one of those. But moving past Cam Ward, just a few quick things. Brian Callahan. We talk about Cam Ward proving it, earning it, but Brian Callahan needs to do that. So I want to see good operation. I want to see wins for the offense, wins for the defense. I honestly would be more happy if the offense was more successful. Now, there's no pads on. Pass rush can't hit the quarterback, so that should be in nature. But there you go. The offense should look good. If they're not getting guys open and the offense looks clunky right now, I'm going to continue to kind of be looking side-eye at Brian Callahan like, is this guy really the coach for the future? Because he is on the hot seat this year, whether you want to believe it or not. No trench stuff. I'm not worried about the trenches. No pads on. If Femi does awesome stuff, I'm going to lie, and I'm going to, backtrack on that. I'm going to get hype about Femi, no doubt about it, and I'll talk about that in a second. But at the end of the day, we can't overrate the trench stuff. There's no pads on, and everybody just stay healthy. And don't forget, folks, mandatory minicamp. We got a big break until training camp. Let's have fun this week, baby, and let's talk about roster battles to watch. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place. Stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. When I first started using the Monarch app, I didn't realize how much money I was spending on online shopping. And now I can budget smarter and save more, and I can do it all on one app instead of juggling multiple apps. Now I can use Monarch to check my finances, track my spending, even plan my long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Titans fans, let's continue our preview of mandatory minicamp again. The next 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the Tennessee Titans will have open practice, media reports, videos, all that. I'm going to be breaking it down here on the channel, everything you need to know, everything you missed, great conversation, analysis. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. You are not going to beat the Tennessee Titans content I'm putting out. Free every single day, 30 minutes, every topic. We deep dive, we get the good debates, anything you want, you're going to find it here. But with that being said, what are some roster battles that I'm paying attention to at mandatory minicamp? Well, quite frankly, some of them are the same roster battles that we've been looking at for quite some time now. But now, as we get closer to the real football, guys start to separate a little bit. And I think 3 days of practice, we're going to get reports on all 3 days. You're going to start to see patterns. Who's a guy who's making plays? Who's a guy who's getting mentioned? Who's a guy who's showing out? We're going to notice all of those things. So here is where, instead of just getting a one-day picture during a week of here's what happened, now we can get, hey, you know, this guy struggled 3 days in a row, had drops 3 days in a row. Hey, this guy made plays all 3 days in a row. And you could start to see like, oh, this guy is taking advantage. So now, although we've been talking about these battles, we are going to get significantly more information as to who is winning these battles, who's the favorite for these battles, who we think can come back and make some plays, who's an underdog, who's been pushing. We're going to get more of a clear picture there. And you look at, like I talked about when we talked about Cam Ward, the pass catchers. Calvin Ridley at the top, number one. We know that. But who will take those next steps? Again, consistency is what is going to win an underdog a job. A rookie getting over a veteran only comes with consistency. You need to be able to count on the rookie pass catcher to be in the right place, make the right play. And once they start doing that stuff, maybe they can even start making plays and going above and beyond once they get comfortable doing that. So consistency is key, and we'll be able to see a little bit of the consistency day by day throughout this week. And is it going to be, you know, Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson, the veterans who we expected? Are they just going to Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson? It's the three veterans. They're the clear best guys. That's it. Or are we going to see some of these younger guys start to step up? And it's not just the rookies. Of course, I think Alec Iomanner has a great chance to be a starter during the season. And if he comes out hot, start right away, because he is a physical X receiver who could play isolated on the line of scrimmage against press coverage. The Titans only have Van Jefferson, who can do that right now. Could Treylon Burks do that? Can you count on Treylon Burks? I have said consistently for 2 straight off seasons, I do not factor in Treylon Burks to any of my decision-making. So I'm not going to be like, oh, maybe Treylon Burks can be the physical X. No, Treylon Burks does not exist for me. So it's Van Jefferson or it's Iomanner. And Van Jefferson is a good player. He's solid depth. He's going to play the NWI role, ideally, in my opinion, this season, as the 4th wide receiver that can play everywhere, big enough and strong enough to play some of that X, but you wouldn't want him there all the time, fast enough to play the Z, but you wouldn't want him there all the time, reliable enough to play in the slot, but you wouldn't want him there all the time. You can move him around. I think Chim Dike can maybe do some of those things and be a direct backup or even replace Van Jefferson. But Iomanner is the only guy who I can see who it's like, oh, it is clear that you are the physical X receiver. But you can't just give him that if he doesn't earn it. If he hasn't proven that he's a good enough player to take that spot, you can't do that. So who is going to step up? Again, is it going to be those vets and Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson? Is it going to be the core of young rookie wide receivers in a guy like Iomanner, Restrepo in the slot, Chim Dike, who has been under-discussed That's my fault. Chim DK deserves more discussion. His versatility, his speed, the Titans are going to want to use him. And I think I saw somewhere they were looking at him as like a big slot. Like imagine Tyler Boyd with 4.3 speed. That's the vision for Chim DK, which gives him the ability to run the quick underneath routes, but also gives him the ability to run those vertical routes, like the deep crossing route that he was so good at Florida, or like just a seam route vertically down the field to kind of stretch things out over the middle. We know that Cam Ward likes to throw the ball over the middle. Okay, so if you have somebody who could stretch the field over the middle vertically from the slot, well, now that's going to open up all of the underneath easy stuff over the middle of the field for Cam Ward to hit. So Chim DK could have a huge role here. But again, we have to see that start to materialize. We have to see that happen. And pay attention to who's catching passes from who. Okay, because that can give us a small window into who is where on the depth chart. Oh, that's the third team offense. Oh, that's the second team offense. Oh, that's the first team offense. You can't know everything, but we can start to paint the picture again by establishing patterns throughout the week of who's catching from who and who's out on the field with who in the videos. And trust me, I am fine-tooth comb going through every video the Titans post to see who's at left tackle, who's at right guard, who's at wide receiver, what combinations are together, any information we can glean. And then, of course, I bring all that to you. But check and tight end, David Martin Robinson, Josh Wiley, Chigakonkwo. I continue to say I think Gunnar Helm will be tight end one, the most snaps at tight end this year for the Titans. But again, can we find a way to figure out who's really there right now? What's happening right now with those positions? That's what I'm going to be paying attention to. And quite honestly, that's the only thing that truly interests me on offense with position battles. I think depth on the offensive line, the depth pieces at running back, but we kind of have all of the significant answers we need at running back, at quarterback, at offensive line. It's wide receiver and tight end where we're like, how are these things going to shake out? So who can establish a pattern of consistency? And then on defense, we know it's the linebackers. Next to Cody Barton, Otis Reese got banged up last week at OTAs. Is he going to be back? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to... And then Frank Bush, Titans linebacker coach, said James Williams and Cedric Gray are rotating with the first team next to Cody Barton. So they're giving those two guys a major opportunity to step up. Who's going to do it? Who's going to make the most plays? I'm betting on James Williams personally to win that battle, but I think this mandatory minicamp, it should be clear that Cedric Gray and James Williams are better than Otis Reese, and they are ahead of Otis Reese in the pecking order. That is my expectation for those two second-year linebackers. One of them needs to step up. Again, if I had to put a bet on it, I'm going to go with James Williams. But it has to be one of them. That's what the Titans need. And if not, a guy like Jermaine Pratt just got released by the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, Brian Callahan was around with them. Could look at Indianapolis as an option because Lou Anarumo, the former defensive coordinator from the Bengals, is now with the Indianapolis Colts. If you want to steal him away from the Colts and improve your own linebacker group, because maybe you're not comfortable with the young guys after this week, if none of the young linebackers step up this week and show it, then the Titans should go out and get a C.J. Mosley. They should go out and get a Jermaine Pratt. You should do that and push those young players even harder in training camp with another veteran presence. And then you look at cornerback. With L'Jarius Sneed likely not participating, Gabe Jeudy-Lawley has been reported as being the guy who's getting the first team reps next to Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Roger McCreary. Can Gabe Jeudy-Lawley put a stranglehold on that CB4 spot ahead of Darrell Baker? Will a guy like Jamari Harris, undrafted free agent, boundary corner, long, physical guy out of Iowa, will he step up? Marcus Harris was the 6th-round draft pick, more of a slot guy in my opinion, but great speed and ball skills. Will he step up as a 24-year-old who should be ready to play right away? And if they don't step up, if none of those three guys are any of the undrafted free agents the Titans brought in, there were like 9 undrafted cornerbacks they brought in. If none of those guys step up, do you go get Asante Samuel Jr.? Do you go get Jair Alexander? I don't think that makes a lot of sense. The Titans have their own diva, injured cornerback, old, that's going to be expensive to deal with, and L'Jarius Sneed. But Asante Samuel Jr., could that be an option? We talked about some of these options yesterday, like on the list. Kendall Fuller. Rasul Douglas is a guy who I liked a lot as well. I think, like I talked about yesterday, that this mandatory minicamp for some guys is their last opportunity before the Titans go, all right, before training camp kicks off in 6 weeks, let's get another veteran in here. So let's see who steps up. Returner, Chim Dike, James Prochet, Xavier Restrepo, Jet Jackson, Mason Kinsey. Who's going to make that step forward? I'd really like to see DK and Restrepo really show that they can do that. That would be huge for those rookie wide receivers to carve out their role. I don't think that we're going to see Kevin Winston. I don't think we're going to see Khalil Mullings. I don't think that we're going to see Lloyd Cushenberry, L'Jarius Sneed. And again, Otis Reese, is he going to play? But that's who I don't think we're going to see. You know who we do need to see, though? Jeffery freaking Simmons. Get out on the field. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. A little mandatory minicamp preview. I talked about what I'm looking for up front with Cam Ward, Brian Callahan, everybody staying healthy. We talked about the roster battles, pass catchers on offense, linebackers, cornerbacks, returner. Now I just need to have a little Rollins rant here. I just need to take a moment and get this off my chest. So I talked about how I'm not angry with Jeffery Simmons for, skipping out on the OTAs. I'm not angry. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But let me say this as loudly and as clearly as I can. Loudly, I'll give you guys a break on the volume, but as clearly as I can. Jeffery Simmons better not just attend mandatory minicamp, but he better be out on the field. Okay? He better be out on the field. I get it. It's all voluntary. Get ready. Post your Instagram videos. Awesome. But mandatory minicamp, you're healthy. You need to be out on the field. Not just there. Now it's, Jeffery Simmons is in attendance, but we don't see him. Not just there. You need to be out on the field with your teammates, leading by example and leading vocally. Like some people say, Jeffery Simmons doesn't need to do this and that. The Titans will be fine. They won't care. Listen to me. The Titans don't have to tell us, man, we wish Jeffery Simmons would show up. They don't have to tell us that. They told us in other ways. The focus on leadership this offseason. Brian Callahan's field day games where he breaks up the team into, 10 guys and there are 8 teams and blah, blah, blah. And we're trying to cultivate leadership. They literally told us. They didn't say, we want Jeffery Simmons here. He needs to be a leader. But they literally told us that they are desperate for leadership this year. I'm not the only media person saying that. There are other people locally as well saying, hey, it's pretty clear the Titans are desperate to find leaders this year because it's obvious. They have told us, hey, we can't just have guys lead by example. We need guys who are going to bring other people with them. The Titans are desperate for leaders. They hated their locker room culture last year. They are doing everything they possibly can to the point where they are breaking up into field day games just to try to cultivate some leadership and togetherness with the team. And the best player on the team hasn't been there to help them do that. Again, if this was a normal season, the Titans went 7-10 last year. Wasn't that great, but they're looking to move forward. Okay. Like in years past. I would never have a problem with this in years past. But this year is different, folks. This is not a normal year. This is not normal. The Titans went 3-14 last year. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace. They got the number 1 overall pick. They brought in a quarterback who you need to get close to and connect with. This is not a normal year. The Titans not only have told you that they are desperate for leadership this year and they need to change the culture of the locker room. Not only that, but you add to the fact the things I just said, that they went 3-14. They brought in Cam Ward as number one. They got a new general manager. All of that stuff makes this season is a moldable piece of clay. Who are the Titans going to be in the next 5 years? And the fact that Jeffery Simmons did not want to be a part of that, did not think it was important enough for him to be there to be a part of this fragile new beginning of the Titans. That is disappointing to me. Am I angry? No, it's voluntary. You can't be mad at people for not coming to something voluntary, but I can be disappointed that this is a very, very impressionable stage of Tennessee Titans football, and Jeffery Simmons did not want to be involved with this early part. So he's going to come to mandatory minute. And let me say this. If he doesn't come to mandatory minicamp, then I will be angry. Because why do players skip out on mandatory things? For money. They skip out on mandatory things because they're mad about their money. They want more money. Jeffery Simmons has no right whatsoever to ask for more money from the Titans. Not a chance. Since his second team All-Pro season in 2022, he played 12 games and had 5.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. And then last year, he played 16 games, all right, and had less sacks, only 5, not 5.5, only 5, and 11 tackles for loss, only 1 more. He played in 4 more games last year and only had 1 more tackle for loss. It's not all about the box score stats, of course, but I didn't need to tell you the box score stats for you as a Tennessee Titans fan to know that Jeffery Simmons has not played his best nor been available enough in the last 2 years to command a raise and to skip out on mandatory activities. So he better be there. But moving forward past that, a level past, it's not just that he needs to be in attendance. Again, he needs to be out on the field, leading by example. I don't want a boss who stands in the back and yells orders. I want a leader who carries the rope from the front. Jeffery Simmons needs to be a leader for this team. And he has not been around so far to be a leader whatsoever. So he needs to make up for lost time and not just be in attendance, but be out on the field. Nothing about where this team is at, what he has done in the last 2 years, should give him a pass of participating in these on-field activities. You got to earn that. I'm sorry, Jeffery Simmons has not earned squat with his last 2 disappointing seasons. We know that Jeffery Simmons is capable of better. We know that Jeffery Simmons is capable of more. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to give him a pass to just be in the building and sit in the building and watch his teammates out there on the field. No, you haven't earned that the last 2 years. The state of this team requires more from you. If you want to be who you say you are, Jeffery Simmons, if you want to be who you pretend and act like you are, then you need to be out on your field with the teammates, and you need to be getting in the work. This isn't just about you being a good player. This is about fixing this franchise. And in my opinion, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So I want to see Jeffery Simmons out on the field being part of the solution. With that being said, though, I am obviously so hyped up for mandatory minicamp this week. Make sure that you're with me all 3 days, getting caught up, informed on exactly what happened, exactly what you need to know, and getting answers for all the questions that we talked about on today's show. That's going to do it for me today, though, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.